The illusion of words. When I first started studying human behavior, I realized a brutal truth that changed everything. People will never be attracted to your words. They are attracted to the vibe, the energy, and the unspoken feeling you leave behind when you walk out of a room. Think about it. We all know someone who isn't conventionally attractive or ridiculously wealthy, yet people gravitate toward them like moths to a flame. They want to be around them, they crave their validation, and they are terrified of losing them. That's because attraction doesn't live in a pretty face. It lives in the psychological footprint you leave in someone else's mind. And let me tell you, that footprint is never made by shouting for attention. It's built quietly, in the spaces between your words, in your absence, and in the calculated uncertainty of who you are. The biggest mistake I see people make on YouTube and in real life is thinking that attraction means over-communicating. They think that if they just give more attention, reply faster, and stay constantly available, the other person will value them. But the human brain simply does not work that way. Our minds are hardwired to chase the things that aren't fully solved. We crave the mystery. The moment you try too hard to impress someone, you instantly drop your market value. Why? Because true attraction isn't built on force, it's built on emotional and psychological tension. The dangerous part is that most people accidentally destroy their own mystery on day one. They expose everything, their feelings, their needs, their loneliness, and their fears. Once someone reads you like an open book, their curiosity dies, and predictability takes over. The power of the unseen. Have you ever noticed how the quietest person in a room can sometimes command the most authority? That's because their energy isn't scattered. They aren't desperately trying to make everyone like them, and that specific boundary deeply intrigues people. The human brain is naturally obsessed with unfinished business, not certainties. If you are always the first to text back, always available, and constantly explaining yourself, your presence becomes cheapened. You become completely predictable, and predictability kills dopamine. People say they want complete certainty, but subconsciously, they dread it, because it removes the thrill of the chase. True attraction begins with emotional self-control. It's about what your eyes say, how you handle silence, and how gracefully you navigate rejection. People don't listen to your words. They read your underlying emotional state. If you harbor deep-seated fear or neediness, others will intuitively sense it and pull away. Because neediness is a heavy, suffocating weight. The absolute irony of modern relationships is that the harder you chase someone, the faster they run. Human nature demands freedom. We naturally run toward the person who gives us the emotional space to breathe, someone who doesn't cling, suffocate, or beg for attention. In a society full of attention addicts who constantly need to be seen, a self-contained individual is a rare gem. True attraction isn't built on constant proof, it's built on emotional imagination. When you aren't around, and they can't predict your next move, their mind creates an emotional loop. This is a massive psychological trigger. You have to give people the luxury of missing you. Absence amplifies feelings, while overexposure dilutes them. Becoming high value. Let's look at the psychology of value. Human beings place a high premium on scarcity, not abundance. If someone realizes you'll stick around no matter how poorly they treat you, their subconscious automatically categorizes you as low value. On the flip side, when you are deeply focused on your own life, your goals, and your personal growth, you become magnetic. Your world doesn't revolve around a single text message. This independence creates a unique kind of power, not the power to dominate others, but the power of emotional sovereignty. You can like someone immensely, but you must remain unbroken without them. The moment your happiness relies entirely on another person's mood, your emotional balance is destroyed, and people instinctually distance themselves from unstable energy. I always say that good looks only open the door. Your mind is what secures the room. We've all met people who seemed totally average at first glance, but as time went on, they became the most captivating person we knew. Their calmness, their deliberate pauses, and the unshakable confidence in their eyes speak directly to our primitive brain. This is why I tell people to focus on creating emotional experiences rather than just dumping information. If you're always trying to look smart or cool, people will evaluate you like a product. But if you make them feel safe, intrigued, and heard, they will remember you forever. Mastering the quiet shift. Silence is a superpower, but only when it comes from a place of strength, not insecurity. There is a massive difference between a silence born of fear and a silence born of absolute self-assurance. A confident silence radiates a rare, grounding stability in a world that is incredibly loud and chaotic. But remember, this isn't about being manipulative or playing toxic mind games. Manipulation only works in the short term. Real attraction is rooted in high emotional intelligence. It's about listening to understand, not just to reply. When someone feels entirely safe exposing their vulnerabilities to you without the fear of judgment, you create an unbreakable psychological bond. Ultimately, attraction is less about catching someone else and more about refusing to lose yourself. So many people entirely abandon their identities, shatter their own boundaries, and rewrite their personalities just to be liked. But the day you sacrifice your authenticity is the exact day you stop being attractive. True magnetic power comes from your individuality, your boundaries, and your self-respect. When you stop chasing, stop over-explaining, and start matching people's energy with calm dignity, the shift happens naturally. You don't need to force it, you don't need to yell, and you don't need to beg. When you build an unshakable inner foundation, the world doesn't have a choice. It naturally gravitates toward your light. A single question to consider: are there specific moments in your life where you notice yourself over-communicating out of anxiety rather than letting your silence do the heavy lifting?